Hello. Today we are going to talk about what is going to be better for you, live streaming or running a Zoom virtual event. We're going to look at the pros and cons of each and maybe even determine which one could be the best one. And even if you aren't live streaming, you probably are putting on some kind of virtual events. So you can find out if maybe changing to live streaming or doing a mix is going to benefit you and how they could both benefit you in this video. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm going to get my intro going. Hello, I am Charlene Tessier. I am the founder of Strength and Numbers, and I help entrepreneurs to find their fans online using strategic live streaming to fill their courses, workshops, and virtual events. And that's why we're talking about what is better, the virtual event using Zoom or the live streaming. A lot of people have always asked me this question because there are pros and cons to both. And so that's what we'll be looking at first. And let's start with first the pros of using Zoom virtual events. The first thing is most of you probably already have a Zoom account and you can actually use it also to live stream since you're already paying for that service. You can either stream it into Facebook or into YouTube. It's there for you. And you're already used to the tool. So it's one less thing for you to kind of figure out. That's one of the pros of having Zoom. The other pro of having a Zoom sort of virtual event is that it's more interactive, I would say. You can see the other participants can see each other. The other participants are engaging not only with you as a presenter, but interacting with each other. And so there's a lot more engagement going on, as well as you, as well as the presenter, can get into a direct dialogue and have questions back and forth between one of the participants and get clarification, or other people can chime in. And so it can make for a very interesting event. It can be a lot of surprises because things can come out of it that you didn't expect, because when people come together and engage, often there's a lot more creativity and ideas that just comes out of it naturally and organically through discussion that doesn't really come out when it's more like a presenter and people are listening. So there's the main pros, I would say. And one of the main ones also is that, of course, it's a two-way communication, right? So it's this is a bit more one way, but there is two ways also in live streaming. We'll talk about that in a second. But first, let's see any cons for the Zoom virtual events. One of the cons for the Zoom virtual events is that if not a lot of people show up, then you feel like this is a bit of a waste of your time, even though it is not a waste of your time. But say only 2 or 3 people actually show up on the call. And sometimes when they show up on the call, they won't turn on their cameras. And then it becomes kind of awkward because there isn't this dialogue and discussion and engagement because the cameras are off, or there's not enough participants on the call to essentially get that going organically and to facilitate that. That's one of the cons. The other con is that if you want to stream it in from Zoom into either Facebook or YouTube, you first have to choose which one you want to do. And also there's some technical difficulties with it. It's not super simple to get it going. There's quite a bit of lag from the time when you go live on Zoom to when it goes live on Facebook. So you have to kind of account for that. In addition, when you set it up, there isn't any reminders. It's you went into Facebook and set up your Facebook Live. It would send up a little notification in advance. People would be able to even opt in to say, remind me, or I'm coming if it's on LinkedIn Live. And so those little reminders actually really helps to boost people to come and see your live stream. But when you do it with Zoom, none of that is presented to them. And therefore, you have to kind of do all that manually. So that is a little bit more work. In addition, Zoom doesn't have really any branding besides maybe if you have your green screen in the back, but you can't have these kind of banners like I have in the bottom, and you wouldn't have this. Well, you could if you designed your green screen, although sometimes, again, green screen doesn't work very well, it kind of fails, and so the branding is maybe not as professional as it could be with using a professional live streaming tool. The other thing is when you're streaming in with Zoom, you don't have the ability to see the comments. Like I can see if people are watching me and if they comment, and they can start to get into the discussion. So when I stream into Facebook using Zoom, I won't be able to see if people are actually asking me questions and commenting. I just won't know till after. So that is a bit of the downside as well. Um, and the other thing with Zoom is one thing I find the most awkward is when the cameras are off and people aren't really having a conversation and dialogue. And I spoke about that a little bit earlier, and that it's wonderful if everybody is actually really engaged and cameras on, and they're not looking at anything else on their computer. They are really just focused on the people in the space and the time spent there. But now with there being so many virtual events, you will notice that a lot of people like to have the camera off. They like to just sit and listen or be in the background, or they'll only post in the sort of chat. And so when it starts to become more and more like that, it starts to lose a little bit of the benefits of being in a room together. And also, you have to still manage the chat, and that again can be a bit difficult when you're going live because you already have enough things to worry about. Let's look at live streaming and the pros for live streaming. One of the pros for live streaming is you can reach a really large audience using a third-party software like StreamYard, like I'm using. I can stream into multi places all simultaneously at once, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on YouTube, and more if you actually wanted. And so the audience reach is very great with very little technical efforts. The other great thing about using live streaming and using a third-party software is that they will set up, even if you don't use third-party software, if you just do it on LinkedIn and Facebook, it will have those reminders I spoke about that Zoom does not have. So having those reminders, having that ad saying, hey, I'm going live next week, I'm going live 2 weeks from now, be on the call, that really helps to boost people to come and attend. Live streaming is really great because you can still have some dialogue through the comments. People can be there live and engage with you and ask you questions. It's unfortunately not quite the same kind of dialogue as you would have, of course, person to person, but it is still a form of dialogue and communication. The other benefit of having a live stream post is that you have the recording as well. And so even though those who can watch it live, you can see their views and comments. And so it lives on in a way that's very engaging for your audience. And the other pro is, of course, with live streaming, and if you're using software like StreamYard, you can have branding, you can have banners, you can have all kinds of like intros, outros. Those are things that are a little bit more technically difficult to do on Zoom and easier to do with a piece of software like StreamYard. The cons of live streaming is, let me see. Oh, if you are shy, camera shy, and you might feel like streaming it out live is just going to reach actually too many people, that can kind of be a con for you. It's a mental hurdle or an obstacle you have to get over, getting over your kind of camera shyness to be able to live stream and be okay with there being mistakes and fumbles and whatnot. Whereas being in sort of a small private group in a little virtual Zoom room where it's not really streamed out, maybe no one else sees it, just the little fumbles are within that community, you feel a bit more at ease. And the other thing with live streaming, which actually I forgot is kind of a pro, it could be a pro as well or a con, is that some people have the camera shyness with being in the Zoom room because all people are kind of looking at them. That for them can be a form of camera shyness. Whereas with live streaming, I can't see anybody here in their faces as per se. So then it's less stressful. So it kind of depends on what kind of level of camera shyness you have and your comfort level with different types of sort of audience formats, whether it be like live streaming, which is more like a big crowd and you can't really see the faces that well, or in a small Zoom room where you can see and interact with each in person and they're all looking at you. So each way is a little bit different. And for some people, one is more comfortable than the other. The other con is that in order to stream into multi-platforms, you do need to pay for another piece of software. So if you're already paying for Zoom, you may not want to pay for another subscription software. And in order to multi-stream and to have branding and to have all of these sort of bells and whistles, you do need to pay for it. And so that is one of the cons with live streaming. The other one is that it's kind of one directional. I am, like I said, speaking to kind of a big audience. I don't really see the faces. And so the intimacy there is a little bit different. It's not quite of a dialogue and a two-way conversation that I could get in a Zoom room virtual event. So which one is better? That is a tough one. And I think that neither is better than the other, but each has its benefits depending on what you really want to do and how you really want to reach your audience. And I actually think a combination of the two really, really works especially well. So for Zoom, I actually really love it. I run quite a few Zoom in virtual events. And I just love getting into the dialogue and the discussion with the participants, and the participants themselves get to meet each other and have dialogue and conversation. That to me it really excites me. It's always a surprise. We never know what's going to happen. And it's fun. It's just really fun to be in a group of people who are all, very passionate and have similar interests, and we get to connect and meet each other. And especially for me, since I live abroad, this is one of the only ways I can really actually kind of be in the physical space together with my ideal audience, fans, and clients. Live streaming, I really love it for just extending my reach, and also as being kind of a lightweight gateway to being able to be with you more frequently. Putting on a virtual Zoom room is actually quite a bit of effort. I have to do quite a bit to fill that room, to market it, and to get people in there. Whereas with live streaming, I'm kind of okay with going live twice a week, even 3 times a week. And it doesn't matter if there's only a handful of people on the call or tons of people on the call. It's not really about that. It's about delivering some really valuable content and engagement to you, and doing it in a light, cheap way, easy way that works for my schedule and isn't too difficult to deliver it. And so that's what I really love about live streaming. And I would say having a combination of both is probably the best. And that's something I'm going to be having, is a monthly Zoom event coming up in September. I'll be releasing some more details about that. You'll be able to come and be with me in the Zoom room. It will not be streamed out. But I'm also planning to run a weekly live stream show. So that is a little bit different than what I'm doing here, which is more content based, but actually having a lot more people show up live on the call, bring questions, and have fun, and even have some amazing guests who are going to present some really amazing value to you. And that's also coming up in the fall. And I think having this wonderful hybrid of the both is what's going to really have an impact for your audience, and for delivering your content, and for building that connection that you really want to build with your fans. And if you are thinking about live streaming, I have a free live stream checklist. I will put it down in the comments below. It's for beginners and advanced people alike. It's not just about your equipment and a few very basic things that you probably already have, but it's thinking about the strategic next level of how you can leverage live streaming to really expand and grow your audience, and use that to build your list, fill up programs, fill courses, fill other virtual events. It's a great checklist for you. It's free. Check it out down in the comments below. And I look forward to seeing you guys next week.